Chris Trapper, my friend, welcome to Live Inspired with John O'Leary.
It is so great to be here. It's so great to meet you virtually like this today. It is awesome. For a coffee in Boston.
We're having coffee right now in Boston. We're going to party a
Yes.
little bit later on tonight. We'll make some
Yes.
music. We'll fill up a venue. For those who somehow may not have heard my long-winded introduction, if you were forced to introduce yourself, how do you introduce yourself these days?
I would just say singer-songwriter Chris Trapper. It's pretty succinct, and singer-songwriter buys you a lot of leeway as far as what you might be doing at any given time. You can do lots of different styles of music, different approaches to your career. You could be a folk singer or you could be a rock singer, all those different options. Just to be simple about my career.
And then what if it wasn't on a stage? What if it was in a coffee shop outside of Boston and we were waiting for our lattes together? And I said, "Hey, I'm John. Tell me about you." How would you introduce yourself then?
Well, one of the things that I do think about often is I identify too much with my job as opposed to just being a person. And I go to therapy once a week, usually when I'm off the road, and my therapist has encouraged me to try and have a life outside of music. So I started singing in a church choir, which is not exactly outside of music, but it's about the persona of being, a paid performer on stages and that kind of thing. So, and then just doing different things. So I'd probably just say, "Hi, I'm Chris," and that's it, and keep it simple.
Well, Chris, I'm John. I'm looking forward to unpacking this
Yeah.
story with our audience today. As I told you before I hit record, I love your story and I love your
Uh,
success. And I love the fact that you've remained humble during the periods of profound success, but also hungry during those periods too. And you continue to do so today in this coffee shop. So let's roll. I grew up the fourth of six in a Midwest Irish Catholic family, the O'Learys. You learn a lot about life when you grow up with five siblings around you. You shared that experience not in the Midwest, but up in upstate New York outside of Buffalo. What was
yeah.
it like for you growing up, the baby of six?
With a baby, I mean, I think that explains why I'm looking for attention now to this day, like why I need applause to feel good about myself and to fill that empty hole inside of me. But in all seriousness, I'll tell my siblings all the time. I think similar to your story is that if I'd met my siblings outside of the family, I'd be best friends with all of them.
Mm,
And I lost one of my brothers last summer, and it was the first time that we dealt with that. And it's only made us stronger and closer, and trying to pick up leadership roles in different places. And my parents were kind of self-medicated alcoholics. They could also be amazing parents too.
yeah.
Quite often, they saw them from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. They'd be the world's greatest parents. And then after that would be a crapshoot depending on mood swings, economic situation, uh, chemical imbalances, all that kind of stuff. And so my siblings became protection for me, and it became a safety zone. If there was chaos via my parents, I would feel protected by, by this beautiful kind of circle of my siblings in all different ways, with sense of humor, with music, with laughter, with one of my brothers and I shared bunk beds.
Yeah.
And it was kind of my first taste of talking very openly and honestly with somebody. Just late at night, you talking about what bad things had happened or good things. And so I think with my siblings, it was just you got built-in friends, you got built-in protection and love that you could depend on. I can remember that I was going through a bad situation in the music business with somebody who worked for me. We'd been very good friends, so I went into a real rut as a human being. I started mistrusting friendships,
Right.
and I didn't really believe in much anymore because if that line could be crossed, what's next? And I remember I saw my brother who lived in Los Angeles at that time, and it was the first time I felt like I could. He knew me before music, And so it was the first time that I felt that I could really unload and vent properly and really get everything out of my head and get things cleared. And then a couple weeks later, the band I was in back then, the Push Stars, played a show in Buffalo, where I come from, and it was a pretty good crowd. And my other brother dropped a stink bomb into the crowd during the encore and cleared the house out. But it was the first time, like, one of those joke store stink bombs that
Yes.
just smell awful. And so the whole crowd cleared out. But it was the first time I'd had a really great laugh in probably a year and a half. So that's what family means to me.
So playing on that for a moment, I have a brother-in-law, but he's a brother for all intents and purposes. And we were shopping together at Target just a couple years ago during the Christmas
Mhm.
season. The time of year where there are 40 carts in front of you and 40 behind you, and there's no escape. So once you're in that line, you're in that line, man.
You're
And he
stuck there.
said to me, "Oh, I forgot one thing. I'll be right back." And with that, he leaves. And then this stench starts to show up exactly from where he was, and it gets worse and worse. That dude
Wow.
had let off a stink bomb in the Target line. I'm trapped in this line. He knows I'll never
Wow.
get out. So we have the same type of family members, man, the kind who love us enough to cause us pain publicly.
I was going to say, it sounds like it could be a relative of mine. So that's a beautiful thing.
Well, he went to school up in Vermont, so not far from where you grew up and where you live. You mentioned the addiction. You mentioned the struggles. You did not mention, but it's a big part of your life. As a kid, you struggled with not only looking up, but sometimes looking in. You struggled stuttering. How
Yeah.
did stuttering as a kid impact you? How were you impacted by it? And then how did that turn you eventually to music?
It's funny. I kind of feel like feel silly talking about my struggles with you because you went through such an intense experience. But you set that aside and you say that stuttering for me as a kid, it showed up. I don't even remember when. Maybe I was 8 or 9, and I remember that I was trying out for a play in sixth grade. I was asked to read on stage, and I couldn't get one word out. And it was the first time I'd had this awful experience, and for me, it was a nightmare. But
Yeah,
totally honestly, like being afraid to talk constantly. I couldn't ask girls out. I think music became a way for me to meet people because it was something that filled my identity and made me feel bigger than myself, and where I can remember I would literally bring my guitar on first dates with girls back in the old days, just because, just in case, like this thing pops open. Um, but I just remember, like, there's one time my mom, since I said something bad about her, I'll say something great about, not bad in a judgmental sense, but just in a vulnerability sense. But she could also be so amazing that there was a teacher who called on me, I think in 10th grade maybe. He asked me to read something in front of the class, and I couldn't get words out, and he yelled at me in front of the whole class, which at that age is the biggest nightmare. So
that's the thing.
the whole class started laughing. I just remember feeling so humiliated, like I never survived that. And then when I got home, I told my mom what had happened, and she rushed to school. Got the teacher had to apologize to me, and then I got switched out of his class. It's when she wanted to, she could be a real fighter
Yeah.
for her children. But then it's funny because over the years, I was even thinking when my band first started, we were doing interviews constantly. So we used to have a secret code system where if I couldn't get a word out, I'd look at my bandmate and they would step in and talk for me.
Wow.
So we had a song in a film, There's Something About Mary, which was the first time we had a song in a big movie, right when we were doing interviews all the time. And the M sound, for whatever reason, I couldn't say it. So every time, which that question was being offered up to us constantly, immediately my bandmate would have to step in and take over for me.
Yeah.
But then over the years, once I became a solo artist, I started talking on stage and loving it.
Hmm.
And so now I'd say about one third of my show is kind of stand up comedy, storytelling kind of a thing. and that's my favorite part of the show, more than playing music now. And I think it's because of the stuttering that I learned to talk in a different way, and I learned to kind of I don't know why, but I don't know what happens, but when I talk on stage, I feel like there's some kind of power to it. And so any given night on stage in front of 100 to 2,000 people in that range, and I've talked opening arena shows before in front of people. So if you had told like my high school person, kid self, that would happen, I would have completely never believed it. I'd have
Mm,
been like, no freaking, because back then, like if I saw questions going around the room through class, and he saw my name coming up, I'd immediately run to the nurse's office and say, yeah, I'm not feeling good today. I want to save the humiliation. So that's how it felt. And it really doesn't bother me now anymore. I still have it, but I just, at a certain point, I kind of shifted how I looked at it from something I was ashamed of. Because there's a certain point that that somebody who worked for me said, you want to put that in your bio for the band.
yeah.
Like back in the band years when everything's supposed to look kind of cool and hip and that kind of stuff. And I said, yeah, throw it in there, just in case you can help somebody younger who's going to be, because at that point I didn't care anymore if people
Right.
made fun of me or thought I was crazy. And I think that was the fear all the time, is people thinking I'm crazy or can't talk or I'm stupid or all that stuff. Anyway, that's a long answer to a
It's a
short
great
question,
answer,
but
and it shines a lot of light on who you are today and who you were then. I told you before I hit record that I over prepare for these types of interviews. So I'm going through not only stuff you've talked about a couple weeks ago, but stuff you talked about a couple decades ago. And one of
good.
those rabbit trails brought me into like an MTV type video series where you were being
Hmm.
interviewed by teenagers. And dude, you were this good looking late 20-year-old rock star, man. Like,
I
you
don't
had the
believe it.
look and the sound, but you started talking to them about stuttering. And these are kids interviewing you, and they laughed because they kind of thought you were joking. And you sweetly said to them, it is funny, but it also hurt. And it was this way of empathizing with their awkwardness because they're kids, but also
Hmm.
making sure the kids who are watching this who are thinking, is my life worth living? And then they bump into an interview like this and they realize, well, shoot, if that guy, that rock star can get over this, maybe there's hope for me too. And I thought that it was a very telling thing to see a man who is on top of the world respect kids who are interviewing him and missing what he's really saying to them.
Yeah. Well, thanks for saying that. I mean, I think that it's funny because I think some of the attitudes have shifted as far as th that issue. Because I went to speak to a stuttering support group maybe a decade ago. It was all young kids, and I was there basically to be the light under the door. That it's not so bad. And afterwards, I talked to the kids, and they were totally empowered to speak in front of the class,
Right.
regardless. And one kid said to me, "If anybody picks on me, that they get kicked out of the school." And so I was just thinking that in my days, if anybody picked on me, that'd be like hero for the day. It's
That's it.
so so
We
that
went to the same
attitude.
school, 8 states
Yeah,
away, but we went to the same school, man.
yeah. So the
Uh,
attitudes that I think have shifted in certain aspects.
and most of those shifts are very positive. So
Yeah.
let's talk about some of their positive things. U2 was a band that I saw at a stadium called Bush. It
Mhm.
was my very first concert.
Yeah.
So I forget the
That's a good
exact
one.
year, man, but either eighth grade or freshman year in high school, sister took me downtown. It was awesome. It kind of ignited within me this love of music, watching YouTube
Yeah.
jam in front of 60,000. It was awesome.
Hmm.
What was your first real concert? And when was the first time you recognized in a concert or listening to a radio, like, dude, I think I might be able to do that.
That's a great question. My first concert ever was my dad brought me to see Buddy Rich, who's a famous jazz drummer. And I think I was a little kid at that time. And I remember thinking that this isn't what the kids at school are listening to. But I
Right.
just remember that my dad thought it was cool, and I thought he was cool. And so I thought it was cool. You know what I mean? it's funny because I never really, I never really believed that I could make a living from music. So that was a whole process of years and years and years of finding people. And so I think that my two main bandmates from the band that I signed a record deal with, the Push Stars, I think that that experience was the first time I started, because we kind of formed accidentally. We were just a
Yeah.
few friends, and there was a whole process. But we accidentally got thrust into a career, making a living at it. Even though we'd been trying to, but just never believed that it could happen. But then gradually things things have happened. So I remember I was obsessed with Simon and Garfunkel, and that was the only artist that I ever learned to cover their songs. And so I can still play them to this day, almost verbatim. And it's the only
I'm going to
artist that
ask you,
ever.
it's hard to pick a favorite, but if forced,
Hmm.
this is your swan song. What would be the song from Simon and Garfunkel that you would close the concert with if you had to pick just one?
I think my favorite overall is Kathy's song, which I think that Paul Simon sang it solo. It wasn't a big hit, but it's on their greatest hits. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's a well-known song, but not one of their like radio pop tunes. But it was just a beautiful song, finger picking. So I always loved that one.
Capitol Records comes calling. This is 1999. You
Mhm.
sign. Your life begins to change in mighty ways. Capitol Records is about as big as it gets. What was that like for a kid who stuttered for many years, who struggled for many years, who grew up in an addictive household for many years, recognizing the work that he's put into music is beginning to pay off? What's that like to, in quotes, make it?
It was unreal. It was unreal because I just thought that was something that happened to other people, not to me. The nice thing was my band, the two other members are from the same background as I come from, working class, pretty poor,
Yeah.
big families. So we always had a dose of reality sprinkled in with the fantasy. Like we knew it could all go away tomorrow. So we actually did enjoy all the swanky aspects of it, even though it wasn't that swanky, but we definitely got wined and dined and limousines picking us up from the airport and that kind of stuff. But we didn't take it seriously, and we definitely didn't think that would be permanent. You know what I mean? Like we looked at it kind of almost like tongue in cheek because we couldn't believe that it had been happening to us.
Yeah.
And so I think the other interesting thing was when that's happening, we were meeting with the president of Capitol Records, and so you go up to the top floor, and it's like office overlooking Hollywood, and he's the president of Capitol was Gary Gersh at that time. And so Gary looked at us and said, I hope you're ready to tour 260 dates a year. And it was like a major dose of reality. Like, oh yeah, this is a job.
Right.
It's not just a corporate credit card at bars and restaurants and stuff. It's going to become real. So, so then the work began at that time.
Uh, so when he said, I hope you're ready to tour 260 days a year, were you at all prepared for the amount of work that would be required to perform at this level?
I think for me, it's always been a dream come true. So even now, when I book a gig anywhere, I get so excited about it. Just the fact that somebody wants to hear me sing and wants to see me play. So even back then, there was a dash of excitement to it. Just thinking about that fact, about the fact that I'm going to get to do what I've worked to do and what I love to do.
From those early years, Chris, was there a song, whether it was a number one hit or one that you just know in your heart should have been, is there a song that you love to perform more than others at concerts from the earlier years?
I have a song that we put on a record in 2004 called "Keg on My Coffin." There's actually, it's my mom actually kind of dropped that title for a song. Uh, it's a long story, but my sister-in-law's mother had passed away, so we were sitting around my parents' kitchen table in Buffalo, which is where my parents never left there, literally never left the table. And we're discussing all the funeral planning for my sister-in-law's mother. And my mom just looked at me at one point and she just said, should Christopher, when I die, just put the keg on my coffin? I was like, my songwriting antenna went up. and I wrote the song in probably 1 hour, and that's become what I close every show with, and everybody loves to sing it with me because it has kind of a bar room, kind of Irish bar vibe to it. So I recut it, get my newest solo record too, like just so I could have a solo version of it also. But but it's funny because I played that every night for many years, and I'm not sick of it. I
Wow.
still enjoy it for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why. You know why? It's because that's a song maybe the most people have reached out to me about. You said that they played it at their uncle's funeral or just various situations. It was used for a fireman's funeral recently. So I think it's had the most purpose to it. You know what I mean? Like it's gotten the most use out of it at a time when people need healing the most. That's a song that really has cut through the noise.
Is there a song that, you wrote it, you perform it, and then it took on its own life in its impact in the community where people come up to you as you tour and they say, man, this song, it kept me going. It
Mm.
kept me alive. It kept me engaged during a period of profound darkness. Is there a song that surprised you that you wrote for one meaning, but it has taken on an entirely different one?
Yeah, I wrote a song called Avalanche, which is like my number one played song on Spotify. And when I wrote it, it was really about my band's demise. Also, it's we were going to have one last chance. We were signing with a new manager. We had all this stuff. So we were also being sued. So there's all these things happening. So I looked at everything felt like an avalanche. And at that point, the theme of that song was to just bring it on.
Mm.
Bring on whatever's coming. I'm ready for it. And so a lot of people have contacted me about that song, helping them through illness or through challenges, different challenges, and that's what always makes my job feel worthwhile is when you realize that something you've written has reached other people in the most intimate way. You know what I mean? Like where it's actually affecting their daily. I have another song called Skin, which has become a lot of couples' first dances for their weddings,
Wow.
and that's a song just about kind of growing old together. That song also it's had a lot of it's it, it's had some purpose to it and some impact, which is nice. So
So on May 30th, as you and I record this, my father passed away this year. So he dies on
sorry to
May
hear that.
30th. And
Yeah,
5 days later, and my dad's my hero, man.
yeah,
No one's perfect, but if he is about as close to it as anyone I've ever
yeah,
met, an incredible
yeah,
human being. 5 days later, I had to perform. I'm a speaker and a
yeah,
coach, and had to be outside of St. Louis on the road, away from my family, away from my grief, on stage, doing life with people. And to be honest, man, it's the last thing I wanted to do. And when the light turned
hmm
on, the mic kicks on, I'm there, I'm present. It was strong, but it took every inch of my being to force me to walk up on that stage. And doing a little bit of recon on you, I understand that you also looked up to your dad. No one's perfect, but you looked up to your
hmm
dad, you lost him, and then 2 days later, 2 days, you find yourself performing in Denver.
yeah. I mean, you did some research, that's for sure, because that's going deep in there.
Well,
Yeah.
so what was it for you? What was it like performing that night in the midst of grief away from home? Then you drove, I think, to Oklahoma City. So
hmm
people don't recognize that bandmates are very rarely in Ritz-Carltons and on the Concorde jets. It's mock, dude. This is work.
Yeah, yeah,
You drive down the mountains away from Denver toward Oklahoma. You had one song that you hit on repeat again and again
mhm,
and again and again. You wept the entire time and you said it was incredibly therapeutic. So I'd like you to
yeah,
talk about what it was like performing that night on the
sure.
heels of losing your dad, and then talk about
Yeah.
that drive on the way to Oklahoma.
I should say first that I did watch. I watched one of your your speeches and teared up multiple times watching it on YouTube. So just to set that aside, also. So both my parents were huge supporters of me becoming a songwriter, and most people might have the opposite response from their folks saying, you need to think about a real job and you need to get real, get practical. and my parents were as opposite from that as you could possibly hope for. They were like, live your dream. My dad wanted his kids to work jobs that they enjoyed. That was
Right.
his number one. He didn't care about money. He didn't care what kind of school you went to. He was like, find something you really, really love. And so when my dad died, I, I knew unequivocally that both my parents would want me right out there doing what I did because I think it made them proud. I think it made them happy to know I was reaching people in a broader sense through creativity and laughter and fun. So I flew to Denver, I believe from Buffalo, from the hospital,
Wow.
and that show was just for that 90 minutes or so. You're kind of thinking about other people and what they've gone through because
Yes.
you're on stage and you're looking out, and it wasn't a big crowd, maybe 100 people, but it felt good. And then the next day was when it's funny because I kind of knew I was going to intentionally grieve my father and just find a song that did it. And I found the song. I played it over and over again. And that drive from Denver to Oklahoma City is just nothing. It's just nothingness. It's just like farms, cows, fields, and distance. Just distance. So it's a perfect backdrop to just have everything, have the waves of grief kind of crash over you. And I think that's what happened. And by the time I got to Oklahoma City, I kind of felt like I did it. I
Right.
did it. I kind of got it out. So I think you never get over it, and it's always a part of you. And so I still lift with my phone. I'm thinking like, we need to call mom and dad. You know that they're both gone now. So, but I still have the impulse, out of kind of guilt.
Yeah.
Also sometimes I just want to talk to them, and, so I'll talk to them in my head a little bit. So there's this great hike near my house called Blue Hills, which I found a spot to put some of my dad's ashes on the spot where you can see all of Boston from there, and just endless, endless. Anyway, so I dumped his ashes there. Dump sounds not romantic. I placed his ashes there.
Yes.
So when I go hiking there, I kind of stop and speak to him, not for long, just I'll say a 30-second thing. I miss you. I think about you. Love you. And then just go on with my hike.
Hmm.
But I also saw that how important your dad was to you, and just so each of your family members stand up in the book launch lecture that you gave in St. Louis.
Yes.
Super cool. Super cool.
Oh man, I'm glad you saw that one. Uh,
Yeah. Oh,
we're,
it's
we're gonna
amazing.
we'll shift more full tilt into that right now. So
Okay.
you've done more than a dozen albums. You've done hundreds of songs, all over the place, man. You've been in films. Devil Wears Prada, Something About Mary. You talked about it this time. August Rush, Grammy nominated for that one. So you've had mighty success, and now you're about to experience that little bit of a buzz and ripple effect again from being in a film called Soul on Fire. We're fortunate in this very pivotal part within the film to utilize one of your songs. It's called Into the Bright Lights. For those who haven't yet seen Soul on Fire, tell us what Into the Bright Lights is about.
And Into the Bright Lights was kind of I originally wrote it for another film years ago that I think it was a Warner Brothers film called Guardians of Gahul, which was geared towards children. I think so. I wrote this song for that film, and it got rejected. But then the head of music at Warner Brothers called the next day, which was kind of above and beyond what they would usually do, executives in
Yeah.
the music business. And he said, "I just want you to hold on to that song because it's special, and at some point it's going to be useful to you." I've heard in Soul on Fire that it's used beautiful. I did see the movie without music in it,
Yeah.
without any effects, so I know that scene, and it's such an amazing scene. I can't imagine how you feel watching that scene. It must feel so unbelievable.
So can I
Or
can I speak to that for a moment? Like,
yes, please.
you were saying that your dad is encouraging you to pursue your dreams,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to become more like your dad to my
Mhm.
kids. So one
Mhm.
of my kids, his name is Patrick, wants to play baseball. If he makes a team in high school, like we feel like that's a win, and now he wants to play college baseball. This is going to be a challenge and one that we are signing up for. So he and
Yeah.
I had an 8 hour car trip together this past weekend, 8 hours to the school, small little school, man, do not
Mhm.
blink, where he may go next year. And then on the
Yeah.
way home, I'm like, Patrick, I got to take a little bit of time to prepare for these podcasts. One of them is with a gentleman named Chris Trapper. Can I just listen to some of these podcasts and conversations? And so he's all in. He's learning your story as I'm learning your story. He's listening to your music as I'm listening to your music. And then he wants to listen to the song, right? The
Mhm.
song that's in the film. And
Yeah.
it's like, so it's powerful as we listen to it. But then last night, late, just you and I are listening to, we're recording this on a Monday. Sunday
Yeah.
night, late at 10 o'clock, he's like, Dad, can we watch Soul on Fire at home? And it's the last thing I want to do because it's
Yeah.
the Sunday night, man. I got to go to work in the morning early and I'm trying to say yes to my kids. So I'm like, yeah, dude, of course we can do that. So his first time watching Soul on Fire is last night. And about halfway through the film, there's a very emotional part for little John O'Leary as he's recovering in hospital, where it's showing all the people who are showing up for him. And then there's this guitar chord that starts playing. And my son looks at me, recognizes the chord immediately, then recognizes your voice immediately. And when the montage is over and that little scene is over and your song is over, he goes, Dad, he's good. And he's not talking
Oh, great.
about me or the kid playing me
Yeah.
or the actors. He meant like that song and that placement and your lyrics and the voice. Dad, he's good.
Oh,
So yeah, that scene is deeply emotional, but so are the words. So is the
yeah.
tonality of the song that plays on top of it.
But that scene seems to reflect ultimately it's become the theme of your life, whereas it's about other people,
Right.
where it's about the people who have lifted you up. And so I think that scene's symbolic of that kind of what you're still doing today. Right? Was that correct?
And not only symbolic, it's like spot on. So
Yeah.
when we invited the actors to participate in the film, I invited each one, but with like little videos like William H. Macy and John Corbett and Stephanie Shostak, Devil Wears Prada, which you starred. And so all these big actors, and I ended each one by saying, "You will be the hero of this film if you say yes." And I meant it. And the only one I did not say that to was Joel Courtney, who plays John O'Leary, the man. And
Yeah.
I said, Joel, good news, bad news. The good news is the film is full of heroes. The bad news is you're not one of them, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
want to play a guy who doesn't recognize his value until the very end, come on.
Yeah.
Like that's what you would sign up for. But I think we need that example in society that there are
Yeah.
heroes lifting us up all around. But at some point, you've got to cut away the cataracts to see it.
Yeah.
And so he signed up for it. He jumps in. Joel did an incredible job playing me in the film. But that you mentioned your song halfway through the film is a perfect bridge to remind
So
people what
awesome.
success looks like and how to get there. Because it's not when you're staring in the mirror saying, "What more can I do for myself?" It's when you're looking around, up and away we set off. These are some of the words, man. Secretly scared we'd get lost, up in the clouds, over the town, beyond the wall, and then onward from there, but recognizing we're able to set off when we're with others.
Right. Yeah. You see, I still haven't seen how the song works in the scene, and I'm dying to see it. I'm so excited to see it because I just know that scene without music was so powerful.
Yeah.
So it should be, yeah, it should be interesting. Let's hope I live up to the scene itself.
It's awesome. And you can quote Patrick O'Leary on it. He's a fledgling baseball player. Dad, he
No,
really
I
is
know,
good. He
no, that's a
really is
big
good.
deal. Like that age group signs off on you. That's pretty good.
In your mind, I mean, you've been doing this for a couple of years now.
Yeah,
When you
just
started
a
off,
couple.
you were the age of the folks listening to you, and now you are 30 years older than my son, who's still listening to you. What has kept you relevant as music has changed and technology has changed and people have changed?
I think probably not worrying about being relevant keeps you relevant. You know what I mean? Just focusing on the task at hand. As far as songwriting goes, you're trying to write songs for other people's stories
Right.
or songs that can be the soundtracks for people's lives. And yeah, I think you do listen to what's happening culturally. I think that's important. I'm always open to like talking to people of all different ages, and I have two college age, approaching college age sons. So we always have great talks, and I don't really know if I've stayed relevant in the grand scheme of the music business, but I just know I still have a career and I still have gigs to go to, and I still am am inspired to write songs
Mm.
that try to reach people, and so I think as long as you have those elements, you have a career.
When I look at things I've written over the past 12 months to years, man, the most moving lyrics I've written, and I'm not a singer-songwriter. I'm a writer and a newsletter writer and then a speaker and a whole lot of other
Mm,
things. But the best writing I've done is after my dad died. And it was ugly, raw, and gorgeously intimate. So
mm,
I'm curious, your brother Scott passed
yep.
away and a difficult loss on so many levels.
Mhm.
Um, what writing came out of that for you?
With Scott, it was a real process because he'd had some drug problems. He was my older brother by about 6 years, and so I had been trying to help him for maybe 2 decades at least, and he just had kind of opioid problem that didn't get better. He had a doctor who had overprescribed him, and then that doctor died. And so the next doctor saw his chart and said, "Whoa, this has to stop right now." So my brother just spiraled with the reduction of drug usage, and he'd been taking Valium for so long that his life had already started to kind of downgrade as far as quality goes, and every symptom of Valium abuse that you could look up online was happening for my brother. Like he had lost, most of it was friendships, marriage, all these things. He lost the ability to work and drive, and anyway, uh, still an amazing guy and always an amazing person and a huge inspiration to me as far as like I think courage I took from him because he just had a lot of it in certain ways. So when he passed, I keep a diary which I filmed a lot of memories with. But also he was already in certain songs of mine in certain places, and I think that I had tried to see him as much as possible. I tried to when things became crisis mode for him, which was maybe 3 years ago now. He was literally homeless. I was looking to find apartments for him and helping him with money and all that stuff, and nothing seemed to really stick with him because he just couldn't maintain day to day life.
Right.
So he finally eventually went to a rehab that he could smoke cigarettes in, that they let him smoke there because he'd left a couple rehabs because he couldn't take not smoking. That was his number. He just couldn't not do it. Anyway, long story short, he went to a rehab, stuck it out for most of the time, maybe 80% of it, and came out of it, much better. But I think that his body had, had suffered from years and years of not taking care of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's so as far as writing, you know, I, I've been writing about him through the whole couple of years and trying to figure out, boundaries, which ways I could help him, which ways were not helping him, which things were not helping him. And so I think that was just a whole process. So I remember reading what I'd written, which made like 10 pages of diary writing. Then I did a long Facebook tribute to him. But I remember that I kind of left the end of the paragraph about him. You're basically needing to write more. I haven't processed it completely
Yeah.
because life happens and you have to get back to reality. And so I'd say it's definitely an unfinished tale at this point.
You and I talking again right before we hit record, you mentioned that when Soul on Fire first made its way to you, you actually wrote a song specifically for it. And now it's on your recently released album. What's the name
Yeah,
of the song? And before I play a little bit of it, what's the meaning to you for it?
it's called Our Time to Rise. and it's basically when the character who plays you is first rising, and so it was literally about that scene because they had said that's a scene that needed a song. So I watched that scene very carefully, and so I wrote it off that scene. So everything about the song is about that.
What advice would you give to someone who needs to live out the lyrics within that song? They need to recognize that the past is the past, and it's time to start living, and it's time to start moving forward. It's time to embrace the gift that you have right in front of you right now. So if someone's struggling with that reality, what's your encouragement as we get ready to wrap up our podcast together?
Well, I think the challenge of that scene was like how is a 9-year-old seeing this situation? How are they? Because I think that your mother had asked you if you wanted to die, and so I think you had it. Like for me, writing that song, I was thinking, what's the way a parent might talk to the child, or the staff might talk to the child. And so I know there's so many beautiful scenes with the staff and you working together. I think that the movie kind of it teaches how to look at that. It shows you how to look at that situation. That's it, in kind of making you just living a life of gratitude and goodness and honor and respect and all those things. And I think that the one hockey player like like that story is amazing. Like the hockey fight, and then he scored a goal. Uh, Gino Cavallini.
Right.
Oh my God! Like that was one. I mean, live like Gino. You know what I mean? Start a religion based on that, because that's a beautiful thing.
Gino is a stud, man. Tragically a film that tells a 5 decade long life in 90 minutes. You can't put everybody into it. So Gino gets
Yeah,
a whisper of a mention.
yeah,
He
yeah,
should
yeah,
get far, far, far more because he's such
yeah,
a
yeah,
good man, so worthy of being imitated. And
yeah.
Chris Trapper, so are you, my friend. I've really enjoyed this time together. We have 7 questions that tether all of our guests together. By the way, Gino Cavallini was one of my guests. So we'll play
Oh,
this
that's
podcast
awesome.
after you and I
Yeah,
play this.
yes, that's awesome.
And so
I do have a
you'll,
question for you, if I can ask you quickly.
yes, sir, go ahead.
Do we have time?
I do.
I was going to ask. So when I release my my life story, it's come in records or albums or whatever the kids call it nowadays. It's over the years, it's in drips and drips and drips and drips. Like where 12 songs might talk about where I was when I was 29,
Yep.
and then 12 songs now talk about what I'd be at my age now, 33. And but I was wondering how you got to the point where you were able to tell your whole life story in a book, first of all, but more importantly, the film.
Wow.
How did you get there to tell it all at one time? And how do you feel about October 10th? Is my question.
So we'll start with the latter one. I feel like all this has been a divine appointment. And if that's true, and I believe it is, then why would you have anxiety over anything? Truly. So I'm honored and excited and feel desire to serve it well, meaning to do my part to get as many people to become aware of this and God willing to go to the film as possible. Turns out Hollywood is a democracy. They pay attention to what you vote with. And the way it works in theaters is that you vote with your time and your dollars. So if you want more Batman movies, vote like that. It's popular. But if you want more true stories of heroes showing up in life and loving the one in front of them, then vote with your time. Go to Soul on Fire and be changed by it. So that's
Yeah,
my hope. I really do hope October 10th theaters are packed and then
yeah,
afterwards they're packed. So I'm just excited for that. I feel like it's time for a film like
yeah.
that.
I
As
was
far
also thinking this is sorry, this is a movie that our country could use right now
yeah,
because it's a unifying story and it's a beautiful story that goes beyond divisions and all these things. It looks at just humanity and good spirit and good souls. And so, yeah,
totally, totally agree. I think part of what when I storyboard out the way to describe my life, I always view it through the mosaic of others. So if if the white middle-aged straight father of four is the hero, well, that will appeal to a subset. Good for us. We win. But what if the hero is a minimum wage janitor who's African American and he's
Hmm.
about 72 and it's a true life man named Lavelle? What if it's a single, beautiful, athletic black nurse named Roy who taught me how to walk again? What if it's an old radio announcer named Jack Buck who
Hmm.
served overseas in World War II and picked up a
Yeah.
wound, came home with a purple heart, but a bigger heart, and loved the one in front of him? What if it's a
Hmm.
story about family and community and a beautiful brunette who sees beauty in my brokenness and is able to
Hmm.
kiss scars, literally?
Hmm.
So if we're able to see in the mosaic of people, not
Yeah.
John, but them,
Yeah.
heroes, then you've got to be able to see it in yourself. That's
Yeah.
in my life. I mean, this is the true story. Like that's what finally grabbed my heart is I recognize if all these people keep showing up for me, maybe they see something in me I don't. And maybe
Hmm.
that's worth taking a look for.
Totally.
And
Totally.
so the movie tells that story. My life, if you will, tells that story,
Hmm.
but I'm not the hero of it. I'm just one of the characters. And now I'm
Yeah.
trying to do bigger work so that
Right.
Chris Trapper and his audience and my audience and your kids and mine and others will recognize there's beauty in your days. Don't
Hmm.
waste them.
Yeah. 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 I love that.
And then to answer your first part of the question, how do you do that? When I first started speaking, I was always worried, like, will they respect me? Will they pick up on the fact that I stutter sometimes, Chris? I do.
Hmm.
That I'm inarticulate so often. I am. That I don't know how to string together sentences in a paragraphs and paragraphs and a pages. That I
Hmm.
struggled in school. That I struggled with addiction. Will they pick up on all this? Because I hope they won't. I want them to
Hmm.
see me being great. And then relatively early in, I stopped that entirely and started using the story only so they could recognize in their own journey the beauty of themselves, not the perfection. But I read an old spiritual writer named Henry Nouwen who wrote, "What is most private and personal is most sacred and universal."
Hmm.
So the more
Well, that's
you
cool.
sing and songwrite about your brother's addiction and his homelessness,
Hmm.
ugliness that is only your family, Trapper, the more you now
Hmm.
turn on the audience around the United States and beyond for their life story. And the
Hmm.
more this broken down dude with no fingers and scars on his entire body can share vulnerably about his story, the more others can recognize in their bankruptcy, in their divorce, in the abuse they dealt with as a child, whatever it is, they can recognize maybe something's happening in their experience that recognizes, in my mind, in my faith view, that God is still working through it, that good things can still come out of it, but you got to hang on until the final set.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Awesome.
All right, man. I appreciate you flipping the script and now turning this into the Chris Trapper interview, but taking the
Oh yeah.
microphone back.
I need more training for that. But
And
yeah.
I don't think you did. It's you know what it is, man. It's curiosity for something bigger than self.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have it. It's where your heart, the music comes from. It's awesome. So, my friend, as we wrap up now, 7 questions, quick set list. Here
Okay.
we go. What's
All
been
right.
the most, uh, normally it's best book, most impactful book. In your case, most impactful either album or song. So as you look around your vinyl, CDs, whatever
Yeah.
you have now, what's been the most impactful either album or single song that has inspired your work today?
Yeah. I'd say the single song would be Sam Cooke's "A Change Is Gonna Come,"
All
and
right.
I think that's a lot of people's go-to for that. But for me, it represents a lot of things. Yeah.
What's one
It's a
positive characteristic or one trait that you possessed as a little boy growing up in Buffalo that you wish you exhibited as brilliantly today as a man in Boston?
so good. That's such a good question. I mean, I think I'm still pretty similar to that kid. I think I was always very kind and gentle and kind to animals. Um, but the one, I used to climb trees all the time when I was a kid. I'd like to climb trees again. That's so it's not exactly a character trait, but it's something that I used to. You know what?
I,
I
I know
wish
exactly what you mean.
I wish I took more time to just be. I'm
Yeah.
trying to do that now. Trying to just sit on my porch and kind of watch cars go by sometimes and just take a minute. Because as somebody when your time is booked a lot, that you sometimes forget to do that. So Yeah, you remember as a kid, I was a big dreamer. So I could spend all day outside just kind of making up games. I just like to make up sports. It's that there'd be sports that didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
That they might have elements of other sports, but just let me play hockey, but with a skateboard. Uh, it's just skateboard hockey. In Buffalo, it's a big deal, but in St. Louis, I'm not sure.
Well, I'm on the phone right now with a guy who's in the Hall of Fame in Buffalo, so it must still be a big deal because the man I'm talking to is.
Don't be
If your home,
intimidated by
if your home caught fire
that.
and all
Yes,
living things are out, and you have an opportunity of running back in and grabbing one thing that matters to you, what would you grab?
man. Oh, these are tough. Probably my guitar that my friend made for me. There's a guitar that's like my signature model. Um, so I'd probably grab that because it's very special to me. It has my signature on it. Maybe my Hall of Fame trophy here from the Buffalo
Yeah,
Music Hall
it's
of Fame.
awesome.
Uh, and that's I really worry about the people only, pretty much.
Yeah.
I do have like some of my master tapes, also of old songs that I wrote, but I'd probably let that go. I think to the future.
We got a trophy in the right hand, and we got a guitar in the left, and we're just gonna watch it burn by some marshmallows and play to the crowd that's gathering.
Yes, exactly.
If you could sit on a bench on a gorgeous day and have a long conversation with anyone living or deceased, who would you like to be seated next to?
Yeah, they're so great. They're such good questions. Well, if I could resurrect them,
You
I'd
can.
probably I'd probably want to sit with my parents.
All right. What's the best advice mom or dad or anyone else ever gave you?
My dad used to say to me when I'd play him new songs, he would say to me, "Keep it simple, stupid," encouraging me not to be pretentious, try and write for other people, think about other people. It's not just my outlet. And my mom used to encourage me not to be intimidated by anybody.
Mm,
Regardless of wealth, stature, power, all the stuff. And she would always just you say you have all these things within you, so don't worry about that stuff. Um, so I think that yeah, I'd love to chat with them only because I've thought of so many questions since they passed that I never asked them that I'm curious about.
yeah.
I'm curious what my dad's favorite whiskey was. I'm curious. I'm curious if my mom had other loves in her life, but aside from my dad, just stuff like that.
Yeah. What advice did you at age 20 need to receive?
At age 20, I probably just dropped out of college. Even though I barely dropped out because I know you spent 9 years in college. I think I spent six, so I didn't match your record, but
No one should. Trapper, some
no,
some records are meant not to be broken, brother.
that's true. That's true. I would tell myself to not be pretentious. Don't take yourself too seriously, which I did then. I don't know. I don't really live with many regrets, honestly. I kind of think you always do the best you can when you can. I might say this because I've been writing songs since I was 13, and I kind of goofed off for a lot of my life and didn't really focus on monetizing it and I think I think I could have much earlier because I was playing some old demos of mine when I was like 19, 20, 21 recently, and when I listen, I think it's not perfect, but I think I could have started something earlier. Like we didn't sign a record deal till late 20s, I'm pretty sure. So maybe that's something I'd say is get on the horn quicker. But then you also have to have all these different life experiences to
That's
pour
right.
into your work. And I think I definitely have improved as a singer since that point in time.
Chris Trapper, it has been said that all great people can have their lives summed up in one sentence. How would you like yours to read?
Smile and know I loved you till the end. And that's a line from the song that I reference Keg in My Coffin, which is my favorite one to play, and it's one that I feel not the most proud of, it's one that I feel that it's probably impacted the most people.
Chris, I want to thank you for sharing that song and sharing part of your life, not only with us, but with your fans, man, for 3 decades. I want to thank you for loving your brother, your parents until the end. And I want to thank you for reminding us that this is a season to recognize the blessings that are in front of us and to begin living boldly now. It's an
Hmm.
awesome example, and we're grateful for you.
And I'm so excited to have people see your story, and I'm really honored to be a part of it. Honestly, but but to me, it's the more I've known about it, the cooler it gets for me. I'm like, this is freaking awesome. So regardless of whether it does amazing right away or takes time to like to build, um, I think it's truly bringing something good to a world that needs it.
Mm.
And I think it can eclipse some of the negatives that are out there and make people feel good about what they have and what they can be as people. So I appreciate you taking time to talk to me very much. So
My friends, you're listening to the interview with Chris Trapper, singer, songwriter, great human being, my friend. My name is John O'Leary, and today is your day. As Chris wrote, soar from the moonlight straight to the sunrise. This will be our time to free fall and nosedive and onward from there. So, family, friends, for this time, and until next time, this is John O'Leary. Today is your day. What a gift. Live inspired.